So POCO has just released these two phones. We have the F8 Ultra with its Bose 2.1 sound system and a little woofer in there, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 5, and then the Pro model here with a also sound optimized by Bose, but it doesn't have the woofer in it. It's got the Snapdragon 8 Elite, still a very good chip, and 100-watt charging on both of these, and a 2.5-inch optical zoom camera where we get a periscopic 5 times with the Ultra. So I'm going to be going over their differences. We'll look at screen brightness, which one is the clearest in direct sunlight. I'll compare synthetic benchmarks, battery life, charging times, gaming performance, and a bit of a sound off too as well to have a listen to the difference that the little tiny woofer in the Ultra model does make between these two. So you can decide on which one of these phones is best for you. So what is the difference now between the cameras? That's what I'm here to find out. So we've got 20 megapixels with the F8 Pro. It can only shoot 1080p 30 frames per second and 60. And the 32 megapixel camera of the F8 Ultra, well, that can shoot 4K 30 maximum. Now the difference in video at first glance, it doesn't seem like a lot, but there's a big difference with the ultra wide because it's 8 megapixels with the F8 Pro and it can only shoot 1080p, whereas with the Ultra it's 50 megapixels, shoots 4K. So I'm using the main cameras at the moment, and I'll just go over to their optical zoom cameras. So that's 2.5 times with the F8 and then 5 times optical. Big difference there with the F8 Ultra. Stability on both, it does seem to be good, but I think the 2.5 times looks a little more steady here for video. And I'll go back to those main cameras. I'm shooting 4K at the moment, so I can't go to the ultra wide with the F8 Pro, but I can here with the Ultra, which is a little bit wider. You can see gets more in the shot. So that is electronic image stabilization. Back to the main camera, and that is optical and electronic. Now the difference in the cameras, it's not much with the main camera in good lighting conditions. You can see the shot of my cat Vera. They are quite similar, good details, good HDR. Selfies, there is a difference in the white balance. My skin tones and other people's skin tones in general tend to look a little bit lighter with the Pro model versus the Ultra. Selfies are similar, again, slight difference in the white balance, and with the skin tones, you can see this here. So that is using the 2x selfie portrait mode. And then with the macro shot, well, it uses the periscopic 5 times with the Ultra and the Pro, and both of them are very oversaturated in not good shots. So any shots of bright red flowers, they're overblown completely, the colors. Big difference in the ultra wides, oversaturated with the Pro, very different optimization there with the colors. But with the main cameras, they do look very similar. And then taking it up to the optical zoom camera, so this is where there is a big difference of 5 times optical zoom with the Ultra versus 2.5 times with the Pro. And with this shot here, I have them both at 10 times. So that's using a lot of digital zoom on the Pro, but the Pro model actually looks better than the Ultra. It doesn't make sense, but that's the way it came out, so that's why I've added it here. And I think it was to do with the fact that it's a little bit more shaky, the 5 times periscopic camera, the stabilization versus the 2.5 times optical. A lot like with the main cameras, there is a big difference. You can see that the Ultra here is better. The Pro has a lot more grain and blur to it, even though I think it's the same exact hardware, the sensor, the main camera. And then with the main cameras again, different white balance, looking more yellow, the Pro model, which is actually more correct. That's how it should look. And the Ultra here with more of a white balance. So slightly different again. It's just all down to the processing and this software for the cameras. First up, what do we get with the POCO F8, the two new phones? Well, with the European version that I have, global version here, we don't get a charger included. Now, some other regions you probably will get the charger, but not here. So we have our SIM tray tool. We get a Type A to Type C cable. It's a rather long one. There is some paperwork, and they do give us a TPU style case at least. So great to see we're getting the case. It fits it perfectly. Both of the phones have that included, but no charger, and they do recommend you get the 120 watt Xiaomi charger. So for the duration of the video, I will be keeping them on this side. So on the left, it's going to be the Ultra. On the right, it's going to be the Pro of our F8 models here. So straight away, there are some various obvious differences here, and that is the size of them. You can see that the Ultra is slightly larger because this has the larger 6.9-inch screen. This one is 6.5 inches. And the difference with the fact that we've got the Bose optimization with the sound, while they've tuned the speakers on this, but we get a 2.1 system here because it has a little tiny subwoofer. And yeah, it does make a difference. You get a little bit more bass, and overall the audio, I'll give you a sample of both of them. What they do sound like is better with the Ultra model here. Now we have this nice rubber texture. On camera, it probably looks like this is a fabric. It isn't. It has like a rubberized finish, very grippy, and especially now it's winter here, we've had a few cold days. This phone is very slippery, so if you drop a phone, it's probably going to crack, right? Of course, and dent, but at least the back here wouldn't crack because it's not a material that's going to smash. And the difference with the cameras, which I'll get into in depth later in this comparison here. So the big thing is that we have a 5x optical zoom camera with the Ultra model, where it's 2.5 with the Pro model, and an 8 megapixel ultra wide, which can't shoot 4K. We get 50 megapixel ultra wide, 50 main here, and it's 50 the 2.5 times optical zoom camera. There is a difference in the weight. You can't really feel too much of a difference just holding them now, or slightly heavier. The Ultra, it's in fact 20 grams heavier. So this one's 220 grams versus 199 grams. And the thickness is about the same, almost the same. So 8.1 millimeters with our Ultra and 8 millimeters with the Pro model. You can see the frames are made out of metal. We've got the antenna lines, and we get video out with the Ultra model, and we do not get video out with the Pro model, and both of them take nano SIMs. Very, very similar looking at the bottom of them there. So loudspeakers there. Up the top, we have loudspeakers, and overall, really good build on both of them. It does feel excellent. Another difference is, well, both of them take 100-watt charging. I'll give you the exact charge times soon when I get into that. But we do have wireless charging with our Pro model, the Ultra model, sorry, which you don't get with the Pro. So that's the difference there with them. So there's a few things. It starts to add up. Now the screens on them, they are both AMOLED 120 Hz. Both of them support Dolby Vision, HDR+, and 3500 nits is what the claim is on the brightness on these. In the high brightness mode, well, the peak mode here, and we do have 2560 Hertz with the pulse width modulation. So you shouldn't see any flicker if you're sensitive to that. Well, it's a high rate that I haven't seen any flickering when using both of these. Now you can see we've got the hole punch style cutout. Bezels are basically the same, and then the slightly different side screens, the Ultra being a little bit larger at 6.9 versus 6.59 inches. And the cutout, well, this houses a 32 megapixel camera capable of 4K with the Ultra, 1080p only video with our Pro. And note that with the Ultra, it is 4K 30, no 4K 60 with that front-facing camera, which is a little bit disappointing. Now, they're both using ultrasonic fingerprint readers, and they are phenomenal. As expected, ultrasonic is the best. It just works every single time for me, which is great. And I found that moving around the UI, both of them are very, very quick, and I've had no problems, experienced no lags. They seem to be really well optimized. I got both of them forced to the 120 Hertz. So the UI is running at 120 frames per second, but that will vary because these screens here do adjust the frame rate to them just for battery saving, which is typical. Now they're running HyperOS version 3. There's no firmware update yet at the time of me testing these out. So it's 3.0.2, a slightly different version between both of these for the different camera hardware. Is probably the big one, and then the chipset 2 as well. And you got all those typical Xiaomi things in there. Android 16 is the base of it, so it's all pretty straightforward. And performance-wise, just in day-to-day use, I'm not really noticing any difference. They seem to be exactly the same. It doesn't feel like the lower-end chipset, Snapdragon 8, this one, the Elite here, doesn't seem to lag behind the 8 Elite Gen 5. They really, and just using the UI and going through and doing your typical day-to-day stuff, they feel pretty much identical. However, there is a difference when it comes to synthetic benchmarks. But just before I get onto them, bloatware, there's a big difference with the F8 Pro. It has a lot of pre-installed bloat, and about double the amount we get with the more expensive F8 Ultra model. And why Xiaomi's doing this? Well, obviously they get more revenue. with the bloatware that's pre-installed with these deals that they make with these brands to have their apps already installed when it comes basically out of the box. Now, the first test I did was the battery life. Now, I know this is not a realistic real-world test, but it is the exact same thing looping over until it gets to 20%, records the time, and I set the exact same brightness. The difference in the battery capacity, there's not too much. So we have 6,500 milliamp hours with our F8 Ultra versus 6,210 milliamp hours. So there's a little bit of a difference there, but screen on time in real world use, you're looking at about 30 minutes, 40 minutes difference. So we got 13 hours and 35 minutes, and then we got 15 hours and 43 minutes. So about 2 hours and a bit more runtime with the Ultra model, but in real world, as I said, about 30 minutes there. Now, Antutu, this is version 11. So you can see here that there is a bit of a difference here, but not massive difference. Okay, 700,000 points is a bit here, but you don't really notice this too much, and not even in gaming. And you can see they both score very good. Great performance out of the Ultra as expected from the Gen 5. It is going to be better. And the battery charge time, even though they both take 100 watt charging, for some reason there was a difference here. I didn't expect this. Maybe it's down to just the way that it's handled on the cheaper phone. But 35 minutes on the Ultra to fully charge from 17%, 43 minutes from 17%. And yes, I did use a 120 watt Xiaomi charger that I happen to have here lying about. So not that much of a difference. I wouldn't base my decision on charging time at all. So internal storage speeds, as expected, it is the Ultra faster. Sequential read and write, not too much of a difference there when you look at them, but then it does pull ahead with the random access, which is really the important one. And again, these synthetic results here, you're not really going to see in real world use. They both feel exactly the same in speed, installing apps, loading games. There's really not much of a difference. Marginally faster on the Ultra, but again, I wouldn't base my decision on that. Now, the throttling on these phones is very, very good. It's one of the best I've seen yet, especially with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 5. I've seen the abysmal results of the Realme GT8 Pro, and I'll just bring that into the frame here because the stability is 32.2%. It's the same chipset as the Ultra, and that is an absolute shocking result. The best loop was very good, the highest I've ever seen. In fact, the highest Antutu score, but it's only for short bursts. You can see it started to throttle about, the 3-minute mark. And we get throttling, yes, with the POCOs just after a minute or 2 minutes or so here, 3 minutes, 2 minutes. However, it holds a really, really nice, steady performance. On the Ultra, a little bit better, the stability. But look at the lowest score difference here. This is the key one for me for long gaming sessions. If you're going to game, say, Genshin Impact or Wuthering Waves or something for an hour, well, this is the important one. And they're so close, should I say. So gaming-wise, there's really not much of a difference between them. But what about thermals? One of them must get a lot hotter, right? Well, no, they get up to 52 degrees. And this is one of the reasons why that Realme did so bad, because it only got up to 44 degrees. So Realme decided not to push the thermals. That phone just gets warm to the touch. Both of these, they get quite hot. The metal frame around the outside does get a little uncomfortable. It feels hot to the touch, but that is the performance trade-off we get. So they're going to push that performance, but it will get a little bit hotter. Now, when you take a look at Geekbench 6, there is a big difference here between both of them. Of course, yes, they were cooled right down, and I ran this with them at room temperature. So there is where you can see quite a bit of a difference between them. But again, this is just in synthetic benchmarks, real world use. You are not going to notice this. Both support eSIM. Very good to see that they didn't limit it just to the Ultra, the top end model. The Pro also does have that, which is good. And this is what happens with the Pro model. I'm not too happy about this, and that is in some of the system apps, the ones that come installed. I'm talking about the wallpaper. When you go to change the wallpaper, it'll pop up with advertisements, and there's been a few, and there's none with the Ultra model, which is, I think that's quite a bit of a disappointment that they're doing the Xiaomi now. See if I can trigger it again, but when I go here to change the wallpaper, it'll come up, or it hasn't done it, but a couple of times it'll pop up with a advertisement. I think that's really unacceptable. Over to sound now. So they have Bose, which has worked on the sound and tuned the sound for them. So they've put a bit of effort into the speaker size, the mids, the lows, and the highs that they can produce for a phone. Very good, both of them. But we have the 2.1 system with the Ultra, which is really interesting to see them doing this. A little tiny woofer here. So how much of a difference? Well, I'm going to give you a sample now. It's my typical track, and I do apologize for it. It's not amazing music, but it doesn't give me a copyright strike. So we'll test both of them, and we'll hear that difference. Now, I have to take back one thing I said about these phones being bug-free, because I'm having an issue where the POCO F8 Pro does not want to connect to my wireless. I don't know why that is happening, because wireless is turned on. I've got to turn it back off again and on again, and even reboot the phone. And speaking of reboots, just between shooting, it ended up just doing a random reboot on me, the F8 Pro, whereas the Ultra has been steady. Now, this has just happened. I've had this phone for a week, these phones for a week now. It's the first time I've seen this. But anyway, I'll play the audio sample. First, it's going to be the Ultra, then the F8 Pro.
Let it spread like a virus. Be a friend with the violence. There's blood on my heart. Somebody save me from myself. I laugh for the meds and it might get hideous. Why so serious? Darkness. If I tap to the there's blood on my heart. Somebody save me from myself. Run for your life, 'cause
Okay, big difference. The F8 Ultra probably has some of the best speakers I've heard in a phone recently. It does sound way richer and better than most phones, and a big difference between, as you would have heard, the Pro model right here. So if you love blasting out your music and you love to have good loudspeakers in a phone, this is the model to go for. Okay, so the reasons to go for the Pro model are the obvious one here, Captain Obvious, is it is a cheaper model, of course. Now, it has gaming performance that in real-world use is about the same as the Ultra. So if you're not fussed about having 4K front-facing camera and 4K ultra-wide footage, and you like 2.5 times optical zoom, which is a good kind of zoom for portrait photos, then go for the Pro model. The screens are basically the same, but the Ultra is slightly wider. Now, the reasons to go for the Ultra, there's many, because we get the wireless charging, slightly better battery life, about 30 minutes more of on-screen time. And with the Bose tuned sound, they're both tuned by Bose, the audio, but we get the little woofer in this, and the speakers, as you heard from my sample in the Ultra, are a lot better. They're probably one of the best that I've heard out of a phone, out of a flagship phone here. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 5 delivers slightly better performance too, and you get the 4K with the front-facing camera, 4K with the ultra-wide too, and display out. So there's a lot of reasons to pay that extra to go for the Ultra model. But yeah, as I said, if you're more focused on the gaming and you're on a budget, then go for the Pro. So there are some big differences between both of these models. I hope this video was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.